Welcome everybody to the Storytime channel. My name is Steven, and today we have some malicious compliance stories. Our first story of the day is by RedXMoonX. Trying to pay with fake cash and then tell me to do my job? You got it. This happened about 7 years ago. I, male 29, used to work in a store whose name sounds a lot like those cops that ride in planes. This particular day, I was in the register when a well-dressed guy and 3 women walk in, each take a cart, and start walking around and picking things out. I was known for my no BS attitude on the register. You throw money at me, give me attitude, whatever, I'll do it right back to you. So when a coordinator comes to me 30 minutes later and asks me to take the dude and his girls on my register, I already know we're in for a fun time. They rolled up with these 3 carts full of clothes, and not just any stuff. We're talking shoes and boots that cost $300 to $800, expensive handbags, coats, and more. I'm just here thinking, aw crap. So they walk up, I start scanning, all the while these ladies are being unpleasant. Finally, I get through it all and the total comes up to about $3 grand. Dude reaches into his flybutt coat and pulls out a wad of cash, all crisp $100 bills, and immediately I knew something was off. So I take the money and go to the machine to check it. First bill doesn't pass, neither does the second, so I turn back around and tell the dude that I can't take the money. Before I even get a chance to fully explain, one of the chicks cuts me off and tells me to take the freaking money and do my darn job. Cue malicious compliance. I say, you know what? You got it. Let me get the manager so he can help. See, at our discretion, we can't decline a form of payment. Say if your 2 cards get declined, gotta use cash. Your cash doesn't pass, gotta use a card, or we can just tell you to freak off. But if we suspect you're using fake money, we gotta try and keep you there while we get the cops. So I go to my manager, cash in hand, and tell him what's up. He goes to the office and checks the money. Now the dude is nervous, but just imagine his pants when 2 cops walk in and head straight for us. His horrified face made my day. Cops take my statement, and next thing you know, all 4 of them are getting arrested, while one of the ladies is screaming and cursing at me, while I tell her in the most innocent voice I can pull off, "You told me to do my job." If you were a cashier and somebody tried to use fake money, would you be the kind of person that would just try and tell them to leave? Or would you be the kind of person to stall so the cops could come and deal with the situation? Let me know in the comments down below. This next story is by Blind Squirrel 42. Oh, you want a photo roster of my staff to facilitate the tattling of tales? Okay. I spent my summers as a teen working as a lifeguard at the local lake/water park. The job was pretty hard. We often had large groups run out the pavilions and leave them absolutely trashed, not to mention the state in which they'd leave the bathrooms, which we also had to clean. Alcohol was permitted, so the later it got, the drunker they'd get and the less attention they'd pay to, making sure their kids weren't actively drowning. We'd regularly have to rescue kids who bobbed out too far, or worse, had gone down the water slide into water over their heads after assuring the guard at the top that they could swim. There were a fair share of adults we'd have to pluck out of the deep water too, who were just far too overconfident in their swimming abilities. But we made up for the gross cleaning jobs and the constant dampness from saves with a healthy dose of tomfoolery, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had. Cut to a few years later, I still had summers off, but I'd move with my partner to be more convenient for her job. So I got a job through a lifeguard company, managing a local swimming pool in an area that is, to say, hoitier and toitier. This pool ran like a dream, no booze, no deep water, no slides, and significantly less danger. I kept the staff on their toes with stories of what could happen, and we prevented any serious injury or accident from happening with proactive rules enforcement. That wasn't enough for the members of the swim club though. They constantly found nits to pick, and my time as manager was spent mostly as complaint department. Not only did they want to complain to me, but they wanted to complain to their property manager about our staff. The property manager was basically the person who made the decision to outsource the running of the pool to the lifeguard company. We'd had a few good ones who rarely got involved, but this one was a typical micromanager. She wanted us to hang a poster with pictures of all the staff and their names. so the resident busybodies could name names while they nitpicked. I said, okay, we'll put up a staff board with all our faces on it, but I should mention the lifeguard company took sun protection very seriously. We weren't allowed to guard without several layers of protection: sunscreen, shirt, sunglasses, hat, umbrella, etc. Plus, we were supposed to be rescue ready with the lifeguard tube in hand and our whistle ready. So that's how we posed for our pictures. If someone came to our impromptu headshot session out of uniform, uh-oh, we can't have that. Put on a shirt, here's my hat. Oh, your sunglasses aren't polarized. Best wear mine instead. Pose with your whistle ready. Once the board was up, all of the guards looked nearly identical. The lifeguard company owners, the people who actually hired and paid us, loved it. They already thought we were the model of professionalism, and this sealed the deal on that image. The members were still stuck complaining to the property manager by saying, one of the blonde girls yelled at my kid for breaking the rules. Can we get her fired? And the property manager would have to go through me anyway to find out who that was. Before my malicious compliance, if they could tell me what time they had a problem with something, I could just check the schedule and tell them exactly who was on duty, but never mind that now. I ended up leaving that job a few months later anyway, because I couldn't keep up with the fabricated drama and the extreme levels of pettiness the members and property manager would stoop to. I did love testing the pH of those pools though. Anytime it was too high, I'd mutter to the staff, "Must be too many basic witches here today." Oh, there's always trouble in paradise. No matter how good you got it, there's always gotta be those people that are ready to complain about something. You gather a bunch of entitled people, privileged people. There's gonna be something we gotta nitpick about. Oh, you gotta get fired from your lowly, low-paying position because you weren't catering to my every need. Our next story is by LJRDXYH. So you will close my account if I don't agree to pay higher interest rates? Okay. So this was back during the 2008 government mortgage crisis. Had great credit, a great job, and multiple credit cards I used to manage the different properties I owned. A personal card, gas cards, etc. So one day I get a letter from a credit card company that rhymes with Apple Pank, saying that they unilaterally were raising my rates from 13.99% annually to 27% annually. If I wanted to keep my card, something many people during the crisis needed to do to survive, I had to agree to the new rate. Otherwise, they would close my account. I would not be able to make any more charges on the card, and I would have to continue making monthly payments at my current interest rate until the card was paid off. Of course, I had done nothing wrong credit-wise to deserve this treatment from my credit card company, almost doubling of my interest rate. So I called their service line. After being on hold for over 2 hours, I finally got to speak to a CSR, and after not getting anywhere with her, I had to hold for another 30 minutes to talk to her supervisor. I was basically told, very rudely, that I could either accept the new rate or choose to close my account. Those were my only two options. Incensed, I said fine, close it, and they did. What they didn't know was that a week prior, I had transferred all the balances from my other cards, over $22,000, to their card without paying a transfer fee and at a promotional rate of 1.9% for 1 year. But because of the law at the time, they could only charge me at a rate of 1.9% until the loan was paid. Here's the malicious compliance part. So here I am 13 years later paying the absolute minimum payment I am required to make each month, never missing a payment and never paying late. Otherwise, their default rate of 27% would kick in. Since the inflation rate during these years has been well over the 1.9% interest I pay, it's like free money. I paid off every other creditor I had with the money I saved and don't even use these credit cards anymore, as I've been able to save enough to live on a cash-only basis. They've tried multiple times to get me to reactivate the card or to transfer the balance to another super-duper account with lots of benefits for me, like paying a much higher interest rate, without success. The only thing I lament is that all good things must come to an end, as my balance is now down to $1,000 or less, but at least it'll last another couple of years. P.S. young folks, I lucked out. I would have been up a creek otherwise. If you don't have credit card debt now, avoid it like the plague. It's okay to get a card, you need it for many things in today's world. Just pay it off every month. I agree with OP heavily. It's a fantastic idea to get a credit card because, well, you need credit and having a card is what really jumpstarts that. That said, a credit card's not free money. Anything you pay for using a credit card should more or less in your mind be coming out of like your bank account or anything like that. I would never use a credit card to buy something that I don't already have the money for so I could pay off the credit card. This next story is by Adam and Red Wine. Want me to pay the final month on my phone account? Here's my card info. I live in Israel where credit cards are mostly run and operated by banks rather than independent companies. Because the banks stand to profit from consumer debt and interest charges, they really push people to get credit cards rather than debit cards, and they work with big retailers to prefer credit cards by, for example, putting a surcharge on transactions using debit cards. They do still mostly offer debit cards though, since families often get them for teens as a first step towards financial independence. My wife and I have long struggled over spending in debt and have, for the last several years, managed well by not using credit cards at all. When we came here, it took a bit to convince the bank representative that we really did only want debit cards. Nonetheless, we have them and they work as expected in 99% of situations. One of those situations was for our cell phone contract, which we paid via debit card automatic withdrawal for the last 2 years. A few months back, the company started contacting us to tell us that we hadn't paid. We eventually figured out that their system somehow figured out that our card info was from a debit card rather than a credit card, and they, according to their policy, stopped accepting payment. When we called to sort out the problem and they refused to take our debit card as payment, our response was to change phone carriers. Since we changed carriers, the company has contacted us to pay for the final month's bill. When a representative called me a few weeks ago to ask for payment, I happily provided them my card details and told them they were free to take the payment. After the system refused payment, the representative realized that it was a debit card and told me, "I'm sorry, our system can't take debit cards." To which I responded, "I'm not sorry at all. This is a legal form of money. If you can't take my payment, that does not bother me." I think she was surprised and confused because she genuinely responded, "Oh, okay," and we hung up. They haven't gotten back in touch since. I just wish in reality that it was that easy to avoid paying your bills if they didn't accept that form of payment. I don't know how it works in Israel necessarily, but in America, that would go to some kind of collections agency that would just hound you from there on. OP did clarify that their wife did manage to pay the bill using their debit card later on, so the company probably figured out they should probably just accept the money. And our final story of the day is by Budget John Cho. I cannot cancel my hotel reservation less than 24 hours before check-in? Okay. This happened a year ago during the start of the lockdown. My significant other and I had a hotel reservation months prior for a long weekend in upstate New York. But then lockdowns happened, so we decided to cancel our plans. I called the hotel the day before our supposed check-in and was informed that I cannot cancel a reservation less than 24 hours before our check-in. I explained and asked if it's possible to make an exception since no one could have foreseen the lockdowns and it's an unprecedented time. But the front desk said when I reserved, I agreed to the reservation restrictions that included said rule. Now they will have to charge me 50% of the total cost, around $250. I looked for the reservation and read it twice and found that it does say that, but it also said I can reschedule a booking for free, plus pay the difference in price, if there are available rooms. So I called again and asked to reschedule our original reservation to the next weekend, and sure enough, there's availability. After they confirmed it's been reserved, I told them I'm canceling it for a full refund, since now the check-in is a full week away. Malicious compliance, success. Just goes to show that if you're too late to cancel something, see if you can reschedule it first and then you can cancel it. I've actually read a few stories like this that work more or less the same way. It's a pretty handy thing to keep in mind. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you have a favorite story of the day, let me know which story and why in the comments down below. But besides that, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it a like, and if you haven't, subscribe and turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. No matter what you do, whether it's just viewing the video, liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, I appreciate the heck out of it. Every little thing that you do helps the channel grow that much more, and I can't thank you enough for it. So until next time, I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll be right here next time on the Storytime channel.